Let me tell you something. New York City is a three-ring circus. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I'm amazed that I survived here for 7 months. But yesterday on Thursday, it was really warm out. It was so warm, I could feel a sweat rolling down my back. And the very next day, today, Thursday, it's cold. I mean, it's really chilly. It's really chilly. So the weather's been back and forth with warm and cold. Of course, I prefer colder weather in New York City. And the colder, the better. Because the more cold it is, the less people will be milling around outside. So today I went to Fordham Road and Jerome Avenue. So instead of taking the I guess it would have been shorter. I would have gotten there in less time, but I wasn't really in a hurry. So I took the 2 train to 149th Street and got off and took the 4 train up to Fordham Road to avoid getting on a bus. New York City buses are the worst. They're the worst. They have those three-part buses. If it's a lot of kids getting on the bus and you got people with their shopping carts and baby strollers, and it's insane. Believe me when I tell you, riding the buses in New York City is insane. And I'd rather just get on the train and take the long way, which is what I did yesterday because I needed to get to the west side of Manhattan, to West 225th Street. And I took the long way to get there because I didn't want to deal with the buses. So yeah, you don't want to deal with buses in New York City because they're crowded, they're noisy, loud, and if there's lots of kids on the buses, you're not going to get a moment of peace. So they were on spring break, or somebody was on spring break this week. But what I want to talk about where New York City is concerned is that the mayor he says, stop catcalling sexy people. Not sexy women, sexy people. In the 70s and 80s, when I was walking New York City streets and had to pass the construction sites and the catcalls, you either responded to them or you didn't. I don't recall anybody ever being hurt from a catcall, so I don't know why he's got to try to introduce this. It's called an anti-harassment campaign. It don't make no sense. So how are they gonna enforce that? How will that be enforced? Guys can't or whomever can't whistle at somebody, and if somebody is whistled at or catcalled, what are they gonna do? Go get a police officer so they can give the person the fine and charge them with harassment? See how it makes no sense? The only thing you can do about catcall is just ignore it, especially if it bothers you, right? Another story that was in AM New York was they had a segment about affordable housing. Y'all would not believe what they call it affordable housing in New York City. And this just goes to show you that they don't mean for people to survive. They don't mean for people to have a place to live, and it just doesn't matter. Everything is all about money. I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but they have a series of affordable housing, and it's 56 newly constructed units at a place in Long Island City, and this is the breakdown. A studio apartment costs $3,271 a month. A one bedroom is $3,408 per month, and a two bedroom is $3,702 a month. And your minimum income must be $117. So they don't mean for poor people to have any place to live. Low income people, I should say. I shouldn't say poor, low income people. They don't mean for them to have a place to stay at those prices. If I lived in New York, I'd have to work, what, 10 jobs to try to pay rent like that. So they're displacing people, and it's deliberate. It's deliberate. Just make it where poor people have no place to live. Make it so that people living on a fixed income have to pay 1,000% of whatever their income is for rent. No, no, no. New York City is wicked. And the new mayor, he has all of these plans for things that he wants to do. Something else I saw that he started. I was watching. I was reading the New York Daily News. Now, the New York Daily News goes way back with me. The New York Daily News goes back 50, 55, 60 years when I was a kid growing up in the Bronx. I always used to read the New York Daily News because my mother always read it. And after she read it, I would read it. And that's how I kept up with what was going on in the world. And I watched the movies. I mean, I read the Daily News. So I was aware of what was going on in Palestine always. That was always top of the news. Whatever was going on, in the Mid East, that was always in the news. I remember that. And so, so people, youngsters today, they think it's something new. It's nothing new. The thing with the Middle East, it was always there. So, yeah, nothing has gotten better. It don't matter that there's NATO or the UN Security Council. None of that has made the world a better place. Not at all. Another thing that was in AM New York. New York opened their 600 licensed cannabis store open on the Upper West Side. So that's a big deal. I believe that it opened exactly 5 years from the day that they made cannabis somewhat legal in New York City. So that was an interesting story. And the name of the new cannabis store on the Upper West Side is called Pure Blossoms. So they had a grand opening, and yes, so good for them. But there are lots of people selling like bad weed on the street, and it seems to be that there's something called like psychosis, cannabis psychosis, and that's because the things that they allow in it is not wholesome. It's not wholesome at all. So that's not good. It's making people crazy, and people in New York City do seem to be a certain way. There's certain things that's indicative of a New Yorker, and from what I understand, and what I've seen and heard, the thing that could get you killed is not saying "excuse me." It can get you shot. It can get you dead. So that's a serious thing, and people have a certain attitude in New York City. People be walking down the street looking at their cell phone as if you're walking towards them, you need to try to not bump into them. You need to not disrupt them while they're looking at their cell phones. And to me, that's just is so beyond the pale of danger. Just about everybody you pass on the street, they're looking at something in their hand. It's perilous. And then you got to worry about the scooters. I guess they're scooters. Yeah, the scooters and motorized bikes that be riding on the sidewalk. They have no regard for pedestrians. They have no regard when pedestrians have the right of way and they're in the pedestrian crosswalk and they're crossing the street. You're trying to cross the street, and a person on a bike will cut in front of you, and they won't obey the traffic light. So if the traffic should be stopped, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep going. So it's in your best interest that if you're like a pedestrian in New York City, to just be like extra, extra cautious. You can't be distracted while you're walking the street, especially when you're trying to cross the street. Cross the street. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. The next story I saw that was interesting in the AM New York publication is called New York's 41st annual April Fool's Day parade. But before I get into that article, I had seen online that the Artemis space shuttle or spacecraft went launched into space supposedly. I don't know, and I say I don't know because there had been some talk recently about the moon landing that was supposed to happen. When was that, 69 or whatever it was, that it didn't really happen. And by yesterday being April 1st, that this one might not even be a real moon launch either. So that's why, because I mentioned the April Fool's, that it was April Fool's Day, that I felt like I should bring that up. So yeah. So this is an interesting article. New York City's 41st annual April Fool's Day parade returns on April 1, bringing its trademark satire to a year already overflowing with absurdity. They got that right. Organizers promise another sharp, irreverent look at the world's latest bouts of hype. By hype of hype, hypocrisy, and manufactured reality. Again, right. The parade remains open to anyone ready to lampoon the times. Marchers in costumes, on floats, or simply wandering in disbelief are all encouraged to join. Floats may be up to 10 feet wide and 30 feet long, moving by wheels, towing, or sheer determinations. Bikers, trikes, baby carriages, and helium balloons add to the chaos. Participants assemble at noon at Grand Army Plaza on 5th Avenue and 59th Street. From there, the procession heads south, pausing briefly for obligatory mischief. The march ends at Washington Square Park, where the king or queen of fools is crowned, perhaps for the last time if rumors of retiring elections prove true. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, New York City is just, it's too much. So now that I've been here for like 7 months, I need a break. I need a break for 7 months. So I am going somewhere for 6 months, and I promise I'll call you when I get there.